that I don't know if people recognize the, the seriousness of the mitzvah of saying Hallel on Hanukkah. We have the menorah is very well publicized. That mitzvah of menorah, and I think everybody is keeping the mitzvah of menorah. But whether everybody is keeping the mitzvah of everyone remembers to say the whole Hallel for 8 days, and everyone's on top of their game. So people go to shul every morning. There's an expression, you got to be in it to win it, right, Ralph? So if people go to shul, then they're in the game in a very serious way. Ralph, if you want to send to the group that we're on, you able to do that message to the group? Froze a little bit, Ralph, the computer. Ralph, are you able to send the group message to the group?
No, I'm not on the computer. I'm on my phone.
On your phone, you're able to send, or not really?
I send a message as far as doing Hallel for Hanukkah every day.
No, that we're on. The class is on.
Oh, yes, we are on 6:45, starting now.
Ramsey, you can mention to the group if you want. Okay.
So do that.
So that's one of the mitzvot that people need to realize. It's a very big part of Hanukkah, as the Gemara says in Shabbat, that they designated these days lahodot or lahalel. These days are days of thanksgiving and days of praise. And Rashi says the thanksgiving, we accomplish that by saying Alanisim in our davening. Our Alanisim is we're thanking Hashem for the miracles, and therefore Alanisim is found in the bracha of the Amidah, which is the bracha of Modim, right? Where do we mention Alanisim? In the middle of the bracha of Modim. And Modim is the bracha of thanks. And Hallel, the Gemara says that's the recitation of Hallel that we need to recite every day. Now, the time for Hallel is really, it's from Netzach Hama. Sunrise is the real ideal time for Hallel. Not a person really shouldn't pray Hallel before sunrise, but if a person is pressed and he needs to pray Hallel before sunrise, and he prays Hallel before sunrise, he fulfills the mitzvah. But really, Hallel should be after sunrise, and technically, it's like any mitzvah you're supposed to do it sooner than earlier than later. But technically, the window of Havatuni to say the whole Hallel is the whole day. That if a person for whatever reason not say Hallel in the morning, and you tell someone in the afternoon, by the way, you were supposed to say Hallel today, he could say Hallel in the afternoon as well to fulfill his mitzvah of Hallel.
You can say Hallel by yourself.
You could say Hallel by yourself. Exactly, okay. Good point. Hallel is by oneself. Women are not obligated to recite the Hallel. If the ladies want to recite the Hallel, for the Sephardi women, if they want to say Hallel, they will not say a bracha in the beginning of the Hallel, and they will not say the bracha at the end of Hallel. The bracha at the beginning of the Hallel for the Sephardim is L'Gmorat Hallel, the morning Simon. And that bracha, if a Sephardi woman will not say, because she's not obligated, so she would start the Hallel right after the bracha of Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Asher Kishonu Misod Yisrael L'Gmorat Hallel. She would not say over there that bracha. She would just start immediately after that bracha. Similarly, the end of the Hallel, the bracha at the end of the Hallel is Yahalucha, right? Where does the bracha begin? Right? The bracha begins when it says Yahalucha Hashem Elokeinu. So therefore the women would start, if they want to say Haluka, Halu Avdei Hashem, that would be the beginning. And they would end the Hallel the same place the Sephardim end Hallel on Rosh Chodesh of Hodul Hashem Kitov Ki Lam Chasto, Hodul Hashem Kitov Ki Lam Chasto. Good morning, Nathan. that would be the end of the Hallel for the ladies. And the Halucha Hashem Elokeinu Kol Maasecha, which concludes Baruch Atah Hashem Melech Molo Batishbachot, is the last bracha of Hallel. That's the end bracha of Hallel. Hallel has a beginning bracha and Hallel has an end bracha, and the ladies will not say both the bracha in the beginning of the Hallel, and they will not say the bracha at the end. And the only difference between the Hallel for the late but they say the whole Hallel. If they would say the Hallel, if the ladies want to say, they don't have to say. They're not obligated to say Hallel, right? If they want, they will be able to do that. Now, as you know, we have to the regular standard candles that people might use on a regular night will not be long enough for the night of Shabbat, because it has to last longer because you're lighting earlier in honor of the Shabbat. You have to say. Yes, what's the case, Simon?
So you light the same candle for the menorah and for the Shabbat candle, and they last the same time, approximately, because
Yeah, but usually the Shabbat candles last a nice amount of time, right? They usually last half hour after dark, right? How long does the Shabbat candle? You have to. It's supposed to last.
Last for 2.5 hours.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Those type of candles for the Hanukkah, as you know, there's one of the major differences in the Shabbat candles and Hanukkah candles is the Shabbat candles are made for use, that you should use the light. The light should be there for, that you shouldn't be, one reason is that you shouldn't fall. People shouldn't fall in the house. Remember the old days, there's no Con Ed. And if you can't light on Shabbat, because Shabbat, one of the melachot of Shabbat is, let a light, a fire. So therefore, how are you going to be able to see and not fall when you're walking? So by making sure that you lit before Shabbat a candle, technically even one candle would be fulfilling the mitzvah. The custom is that we do a little minimum of 2 candles for Shabbat, but
Ralph, I can't hear the rabbi. Can you?
No, I got cut off.
So did I.
It has to be on his end. I hope he understands. We're not there. I'm trying to see if I can get on. Here you go.
how are you, Ralph? How are you?
Okay.
Yeah, and the computer was fully charged. I don't know why it needed why it should have gone out. All right.
Went down again.
Now it's good, Ralph. You able to hear me?
Now I got it. Yeah, gotcha. I got a picture.
Okay.
Make sure they tell everybody light the candles before Shabbat candles.
Right. Correct. And like we said, if you're using candles, you got to use a large candle that will stay on for half an hour past dark. So you should be aware of that. Now, and like we were saying, I was just mentioning to Simon that the idea of the Hanukkah candles is it says you're not allowed to use the light of Hanukkah candles for personal use. The purpose of the Hanukkah candles is not to illuminate your room, to be able to have light and see where you're going, because you're not supposed to use the light of Hanukkah candles for personal use. That's why we have the shamash, that extra candle. In the case we use the light, at least we could say we're using the light from the extra candle, and we're not interested in using the light of the menorah for our personal use. However, like we said, the Shabbat candles is there for Shalom Bayit. The person should be able to go ahead, and if they need to see where they're walking, they shouldn't fall. That creates harmony in one's house. There's a famous Gemara in the Gemara in Shabbat. If a person only has enough money to buy a Shabbat candle or a Hanukkah candle, so what you would have thought that the Hanukkah candle you would have thought should trump, because Hanukkah is this mitzvah pursuing Nisa of publicizing the miracle. However, the Gemara says, what's the winner, Simon? The Shabbat candles. Why is the Shabbat candles the winner? It's very special, but the Gemara says because Shalom Bayit, because the having peace and harmony in one's house, which will be the result of having the Shabbat candles, that's the winner, and that's the power of Shalom Bayit. Now it could be, Simon, today's day and age, where we have all the lights on in the house anyways, so we have a lot of that Shalom Bayit that's already been established, people able to see. So it could be, in our days, maybe there's room to say, let him get the Hanukkah candles, because he does not feel because he doesn't have any, it's not like the Shabbat, where we have already the lights that are helping out for Shalom Bayit. But Hanukkah, where we don't have you can't use the light, you have to use a Hanukkah menorah to fulfill the mitzvah of Hanukkah. So therefore, even though we also light candles for Shabbat, but the fact that we have all the light in the house might be a room to say that maybe in our days, maybe you would buy the Hanukkah instead. That would we have to look up and research a little more regarding that law. But I think the lesson of Shalom Bayit, the fact that the halacha states in the Gemara that the Shalom Bayit, having harmony in the house, supersedes the mitzvah of pursuing Nisa, publicizing the miracle, just shows us the importance of harmony in one's house. And like Ralph asked before, or we mentioned before, even an individual by oneself has to say Hallel, the whole Hallel. Hallel is not only said in the shul, in the synagogue. If someone's praying by himself, they have to say the whole Hallel. And of course, you can't talk in the middle of the Hallel. Same way you can't talk in the middle of davening. So that people need to understand the importance of that. Now, regarding Hanukkah parties, I've mentioned at the Dvar Halacha that there's a question if a Hanukkah party do you have a mitzvah to make a Hanukkah party or not? Now, there is, it says that it's brought down the Hanukkah are days of Yemei Simcha, the days of happiness. So because of that, that's in Megillas Antiochus, it's brought down that the Hanukkah are the days of happiness, and therefore we know we wish someone happy Hanukkah. It's the days of happiness. So based on that, it should be, you're definitely getting something, Morning Ariel, by making a Hanukkah party. But it's also brought down that when you make a Hanukkah party and you go ahead and you say Divrei Torah at the party, you talk about the miracles at the party, you sing songs at the party, that turns the party into a what? Into a Sudat mitzvah, right? I mentioned that idea that we have the ability to transform a party into a Sudas mitzvah. Even if you say the party itself is not a mitzvah, but you could definitely turn it into a Suda mitzvah. Some say it is a mitzvah in itself, but just celebrating the Hanukkah with a party, in celebration of Hanukkah. But definitely, if you sing some songs, definitely, good to see Ariel. If you sing some songs, definitely, if you talk about the miracle, say inspirational Divrei Torah, that will turn it into a Sudat mitzvah. Also, yes.
When we say Elijah, the Gemara says that it's about the light of the Hanukkah, not the light of the year.
Uh-huh. Interesting. We have to look up that.
Just see why Rabbi Meir allowed people to say Elijah Meir. Is there's a big story on the
Right.
and then they concluded that Rabbi Meir didn't say by the Meir of his name,
But the light of the menorah.
light of the Hanukkah. The whole concept of this expression Elijah Meir Anini.
It's connected to Hanukkah. The father of Meir, the god of the Hanukkah,
Rabbi
he's
Meir
the
Balanet.
Balanet.
Yeah, so when somebody loses something or
Right.
there's a need of
Very good.
Right.
Very good. So getting back to Al Hanisim, people have to be careful not to forget Al Hanisim. As you know, Al Hanisim is interesting, especially let's say tonight in Shabbat, you're going to say the Birkat HaMazon. Everybody's having bread tonight, and Al Hanisim is very early in the Birkat HaMazon. In contrast to Ya'aleh V'Yavo, and in contrast to Ritzevach, Litzeinu that you say on Shabbat, it's all the way in the beginning, in the second bracha, not the third bracha. Birkat HaMazon has 4 brachot. It has the first bracha, Zon et HaKol, talks about thanking Hashem for nourishment of food. The second bracha is Nod Lacha, the thanking Hashem for Eretz Yisrael, the main focus of that bracha. Eretz will end the food as well. But and the third bracha is for Yerushalayim, right? We talk about the building of Jerusalem. And the fourth bracha is Atov HaMeitiv. The second bracha is the bracha of Nodeh. Nodeh is thanks. Because it's a morning, Nathan, the bracha of thanks, therefore, Al Hanisim is in the bracha of thanks. It's an idea of thank you. Thank you for the miracle. So therefore, that's why it's all the way in the beginning of the Birkat HaMazon. So you got to be on top of your game to make sure not that you wake up in the middle of the third bracha of Birkat HaMazon. No. Oh, very good. So therefore, Al Hanisim in the Amidah is also in the bracha of Modim, the bracha of thanks. What is the bracha of thanks in the bracha of Modim? Is the bracha. In the middle of that bracha is where we say Al Hanisim. Al Hanisim is the middle of the bracha of Modim. It happens to be in the Amidah, it's easier to remember Al Hanisim because we say it later than the normal insert place of the where we say Ya'aleh V'Yavo, right? So it's easier to go ahead and remember that. Now, there's fascinating midrashim about Hanukkah, and I just want to share some of the midrashim. Midrash Hanukkah Gimel. It says during the Greek, B'mei Malchut Yavan Harasha. We have the certain people have a name Rasha, Lavan Harasha, right? Esav Harasha, right? And then we have a kingdom called a nation called Rasha. So the Greek nation earned the title of Rasha. Rishaim, Malchut Yavan Harasha, made terrible gzerot, decrees against the Jewish people. One of the decrees was anybody has a briach b'toch beito. Anyone has a bar, a bolt to lock your door, which is very common. People have bolts to lock. Sounds like not everyone had a bolt to lock their door, but anyone has a briach b'toch beito. He has to engrave on it. He has to write on that bolt that he has no portion in God. Same thing they wrote on the horn, as Nathan says. So what did the people do? We'll get to Nathan in a point. Immediately the people went and they uprooted the bar from the house. So now, but the decree was anyone who has a bar, you have to write it. But if you have no bar on both, you don't have to. What were the Greeks? What was one of the things the Greeks were interested in eradicating the name of God from the Jewish people? We want to get rid of religion from the Jews. How do we get rid of religion from the Jews? if you can't talk about God, you can't display, and you're gonna actually make a declaration, an allegiance that I don't have any portion of God. But what it was also, I would say they want to accomplish another thing. The Greeks wanted to take away the Jewish home. And if you're going to remove the bar, there's no modesty. Someone walks into the house, there's no privacy anymore. And that would prevent husbands and wives from having relations. And that was part of their removal of modesty of the home, the Jewish home. No privacy. And also, like Nathan said, they made a gzera. Anybody who had an ox should write on it that they don't have a portion with God. They're not connected with the God of Israel. And maybe we could say that the ox represents your financial success, and you want to say you're not connected. God is not connected with me in my business, not in my home. He removes they want to remove the name God from your home and remove the name of God connected with your business. He's no connection. The ox represents your business. Yes.
Plowing. And he's sitting there plowing, and the only thing he sees in front of him is the ox horn. And so it's a way of
Constantly knocking in that point.
from an advertising standpoint or whatever, just pounding it home. And eventually you're going to come to doubt Hashem, God forbid. And that was their goal.
And then they made a gzera that you heard what Nathan said. Everyone heard what Nathan said about that. Their goal was that by putting in front of them this statement on their ox, and they're in the fields for 8-10 hours a day, and they're constantly reading. They have no portion of the God of Israel. They wanted to influence them to forget about Hashem. And really, it's interesting that the rabbis instituted brachot before you eat. There's no mitzvah. The Torah gave no mitzvah to say brachot before you eat. The only brachot we find by food is after you eat the bread. You have a mitzvah, and you satiate. The Torah gave you a mitzvah, brakat hamazon. But why did the rabbis give this mitzvah of saying a bracha before you eat? Because they wanted us to remember Hashem. Exactly, on a regular basis. You're working 8 to 10 hours in the office, but you need to remember about God. You could, but constantly people drink, people eat, and therefore you say bracha. You're constantly remembering. It brings to Yirat Hashem. Also, they made a gzera that you have to be with your wife when she's a nidah. And I presume what they would do is they would close off the mikveh. You can't go to a mikveh because that's how they'll ensure that the people would be with their wife when they were nidah. So what did men do? They separated from being with their wives because I can't violate the Torah law. And then they made it, and then we all know about the other gezerah. Anybody who marries, anyone who gets married, the woman, the first night that she gets married, she has to sleep with the governor, the Greek governor, before she goes with her husband the first night. And this was the decree that they did. What'd you say? Yeah? Wow. How disgusting and low the people were. And for 3 years and 8 months, that was being followed. They were after the Jews. Yeah, that's what it seems like. It says they put their hands on our daughters. I don't know that they did it against other people. It sounds like they're trying to break the Jewish community. It could be, but their folk could be, but their folk. But for us, it was a personal thing against us, and for 3 years and 8 months that happened until the daughter of Yochanan the Kohen Gadol was getting married, and they were bringing her to the governor, the Greek governor, for that night because she's getting married, but she has to go. They bring her first over there to him, and what does she do on the way that they're bringing her, or since they're going to bring her, she ripped her clothing and she revealed herself, not being dressed, in front of everybody, all the Jewish people. So Yehuda, and her brothers were so upset at her, and they said that she has to be punished for doing such a thing, for exposing herself, that she's so not dressed. And they said, we're going to have to punish her, and we're going to have to somehow cover it up, that the government's not going to know that we're behind the punishment for this girl, for their own relative, because of what she did, the lack of modesty, that she exposed herself in front of everybody. Then she said to him, how, you know, you're worried about the fact, I'm going to be disgraced in front of, in front of my brothers. You're worried about the fact that I'm getting myself exposed in front of everybody and not being modest, and you're not worried about the fact that I'm going to be not dressed in front of this Orel Tomei, that I'm going to have to be violated and exposed to this low person. You want to go ahead and bring me to him to sleep with me? So when they heard this, they were inspired. Meaning she didn't do this because she wanted to be a lack of modesty. She did this just to make the point, to show her the family, you're worried this bothers you. Well, what about the other things? Obviously, it bothered them, but obviously they didn't feel, most probably until now, they didn't feel the strength to go ahead and fight against the nation. And when they heard this, they decided they're going to go ahead and kill the governor. And they put her on beautiful clothing. They made a chuppah. They made most probably she gets married, a Jewish marriage, until or they made some sort of canopy. It said they made a canopy made out of hadassim, myrtle leaf canopy. They went from the house of the Hashmonaim until the house of the governor, and they have all the music, and they were singing and dancing until they came to the house of the governor. And when they heard, and when the king, the Greeks heard that, he told his servants, look how they're happy to do my will. They're willing to come, and they're bringing the girl with such pomp and such happiness. And he said, and they're deserving of great honor. And he says, let everybody, all my servants and ministers, let them go out. We'll let the Jewish people come in. And Yehuda comes in, and his colleagues come in with his sister, give him like a private audience with the governor. And what they do, they killed him. They cut off his head, and they killed his servants, and that was one of the miracles of. And it says very interesting: the Yisrael Shayu Be'ir, the Jews that were in the city. What happened to most Jews? Where were most of the Jews? Most of the Jews became Hellenists. There was only a few Jews. There's one family that remained. That seems like it was one family that remained loyal. So all the Jews, when they heard about the secular Jews, when they heard about this, they got very scared of Yehuda and his brothers, of the power that they were able to kill out the Greek, and they went ahead and they did tshuva. They repented. They engaged in Torah, Gmil Chasadim, and they came back. And I wanted to suggest, perhaps, at Hanukkah, we have this mitzvah Persumi Nisa, of publicizing the miracle. We go ahead and we put the menorah where? Outdoors, for everybody to see. That was the original enactment. Then when it became a time of danger, to leave it outside, to publicize it such an open way, they had to go ahead and bring it inside, and in the house. What was the reason why the rabbis instituted to publicize the miracle? Perhaps it was a way, the way Nathan said before, and that how they wanted to use it in the negative, The rabbis wanted to use an apostle to inspire all the Jews that went off the derech. All the Jews that became secular, now we're going to bring them back. How we're going to bring them back? By constantly talking every year about the miracle. 8 days we're displaying, we're talking. What's going on? You're lighting the menorah again? Every night is another. What are they doing every night? And people talking about the miracle. We're advertising, we're displaying the miracle, and that will cause people to wake up and do tshuva. It's in their face, so to speak. And also with this backdrop, we could explain, why did they make the mitzvah on the home? Right? There's no mitzvah to light the menorah in your office. The rabbis did not say you have to light a menorah in your office. The rabbi, you will not fulfill your mitzvah of lighting menorah if you light in your office. You'll fill the mitzvah menorah, you light in your home. I think because the enemy, the Greeks wanted to remove the Jewish home from us. They wanted to say, we saw about the briach, every home, they said, every bolt, every home, they said, you have to write, I have no portion of the Jewish people. They wanted to remove the Jewish home. They wanted the women represent the home. They violated the women. They wanted to remove that. They want to remove they want to say a person cannot, they wanted to tell the men to sleep with the women when they were in nidah. That's what they were trying to do, get us to violate the home, the Jewish home. And then, of course, one of the main decrees against the Jewish people was not allowed to keep Shabbat. They said you're not allowed to keep Shabbat, not allowed to keep Brit Milah, the children. You can't do a circumcision on a child. They said anybody who does a circumcision on a child, it gets killed. That was their decree. And what did they do? It says in Megillat Antiochus, many Jews did not listen. They went ahead and they circumcised their child, and they brought the father and the mother and they hung them in front of the child. That's what they did. That's how vicious they were. And it says in Megillat Antiochus, the Ner Revi'i, the Bnei Yisrael said to each other, let's go rest in a cave. Because we don't want to machal the Shabbat. We don't want to desecrate the Shabbat. And I presume if they would not go to the cave, they'll be in their homes, the enemy would force them to desecrate the Shabbat. So they went to a cave, and somebody went ahead and snitched to the authorities. But here was the time of Shmat, time of when they're trying to take away the religion from you, then you have to be able to give up your life for such a thing. And they go to the cave, and the government was informed. We have in our davening, the rabbis added V'la Malshinim for those informers. They should not have any hope. And they went in front of the cave, and they said, B'nai Yisrael, come out. They're not saying, not come out with your hands up. Come out, eat our bread, drink our wine, and be like us. That's what the Greeks wanted. They wanted everyone to be like them. They want to assimilate, be like us. They understood if you eat our bread, you drink our wine, that's how Jews assimilate. And they said to each other, the Jewish people said to each other, we remember what we were commanded on Har Sinai. Sheishet yamim tavod, 6 days you shall work. V'asita kol melachtecha v'yom hashvi tishbot. In the 10 commandments, Morning Jack, it says that on Shabbat you have to rest. It's interesting how they said, we know what we were commanded on Har Sinai. It sounded like as if they were there. Not that they weren't at Har Sinai, but that's how if they looked at it, it says, better that we should die than desecrate the Shabbat. Therefore, the Jews did not come out of the cave. And the enemy brought wood. They watered down the wood. They brought moist wood. And they lit the moist wood on fire. And that smoke just killed, there was about 1,000 men and women. And that's another of the stories. And then here we have It says that Antiochus, the king, okay, here it says over here, he says, let us remove from them the Shabbat, Chodesh, and Milah. From the major decrees they said was you can't keep Shabbat, you can't keep Chodesh, Rosh Chodesh, and Milah. Right? Those are three things. And I saw one of the commentaries say, why were these the three things? Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh, and Brit Milah, that they went against it very strongly, because these represent the differences between us and them. Shabbat, we're different. We keep Shabbat. Well, why are you working today? Today is Shabbat. I'm Jewish. I can't go to work today. What is the circumcision all about? Circumcision is about I'm the covenant of Abraham. We have different laws. We keep different laws. We're connected to God. Again, they wanted to remove godliness from the Jewish people. So therefore, no circumcision. And Rosh Chodesh, you have Rosh Chodesh, we have a different calendar. We're totally different than you. We don't go by the solar calendar. We have a lunar calendar. And I saw they even outlawed, there's a midrash that says anybody who would mention the name of God, there was a edict, if you mention the name of God, gets killed by the sword. And many Jews left Jewish religion. And that was the story of that. But and we're just going to end this week's parasha. We see Yosef says, Es Elokim ani yareh. I fear Hashem. Yosef always mentioned God. Shem Shemayim shoga b'fiv. That was the key for his success, because he didn't hide who he was. He always gave credit to what credit is due to God. Maybe we have to increase in giving Shem Shemayim shoga b'finu. We have to maybe make a campaign, encourage everybody to say proper brachot on food, not only on food, but just in life, to give the credit for your business, for your success, whatever it is, give the credit to Hashem. I want to wish everyone a beautiful, happy Hanukkah. We're back on Monday. Much you too. Chag Sameach. Thank you. Fascinating midrashim.